Hey guys, and today I'm going to show you how you can win big projects for your video production business. And ultimately this comes down to a technique called pitching or submitting a treatment, where you either pitch against other companies, so you need to put your best foot forward, or you submit a treatment into a platform such as Genero.com, where companies are actively looking for people to pitch work, or you approach a company, perhaps it's an existing one that you already work with this big idea. Now these are great, and the reason that they are so important is because there's so much detail within a short document that shows exactly your concept all the way through to how you're going to execute it and why you're the best person for the job. Now, if some of this is already going over your head, don't worry, I'm going to walk you through it step by step and show you some examples of the treatments and pitches that we submit to win really high paid projects. So just to give you some idea of scale here, we pitch for projects that are sometimes between £10,000 to £600,000 plus projects a year. And we can pitch for multiple ones at any given time. Now, of course, if you're pitching for something at £600,000, then you're going to need to put as much detail as you can into that. And you're also going to need to question yourself whether you can actually provide the services that they need for that particular production. Whereas when you come to the lower end of the spectrum, nearer the £10,000 pitch range, you can be a little bit more flexible and focused on what you can deliver for that company. It might be a YouTube web series, it might be a series of videos for their websites, it might be some advertising content, it might just be a conversation that you've had with the client and you've thought, hey, I've got a really good idea here. How can I get this idea across to them in a way that it makes sense and makes them want to buy this service from me? The key thing to remember here is that not everyone is creative. So sometimes when you're pitching towards business owners or marketing managers, you might have this clear idea of what you need to do in the back of your head, but they might have no idea at all what you're actually on about. And that's why creating a treatment or a document like I'm going to show you is the perfect way of portraying your ideas and why it can be so impactful for their business. Ultimately, they're going to want to know, how can you solve their problems? How can you get their business from where they are now to where they want to be? And you're going to put all of that information into this treatment document. So let's jump straight into it. I've got an example on the screen now that I'm going to work through with you. This is one of our templates, and we have many different styles of templates. So the template I have here is for a car company we were working with, and I actually pitched this idea to them from the back of a meeting we had about a separate project. So we were working with this company and we had a meeting about a project that we had just completed, and in that meeting they said about some changes that's happening to their business. So I went away and got thinking that this idea that I had in my mind could be a really good option for them as their business to help them achieve their new goals. So I came back to the studio, I've put together this whole pitch, and then I've submitted it to them. Now I didn't spend too long on it because I didn't know if it was an idea that they would want to go with or not. I just got the key information across and then submitted that to them to get their opinion, of which, if they liked it, of which they did, we could then expand on that even more and show them some more detailed concepts. So keep that in mind as well. If they haven't actually asked for a pitch, then you probably want to keep it quite small and quite to the point, and then elaborate on that in a further meeting. Or if you're dealing with a company who have actively asked you to submit a treatment, then depending on the budget, you want to submit basically as much information as you can. But try to make it as visual as possible. You try not to make it text heavy, because again, visual is key. You're in a visual industry, so that's really, really important. So I'm going to go through a couple of pages that you're going to want to consider. The first is an opening page. You want your logo on there, along with just something to capture their attention. You might put the date that the treatment is being submitted and any relevant information to your business on this front page, but just something to captivate their attention. And make sure the images reflect what it is that you're trying to do. The images throughout the whole document should tell the story of what it is that you're trying to pitch to them as well. And try and use as many brand colors as you can. So if you're pitching towards a company and their main color is orange, then include as much orange as you can. If you can submit a treatment that looks like it's come from their business, then it shows that you completely understand their business inside and out. And it's going to look a lot more familiar to those businesses. And if it looks more familiar to them, they're more likely to pick you, because it shows that you understand them. It will feel like they've worked with you before and you understand their needs. So they're just some things to keep in mind. Now, for some of you who are just starting out, you might think that actually you can probably cut some corners here, but please don't. Otherwise, you're just going to waste hours putting these things together. And that's from experience, learning the hard way, unfortunately. Through years of doing this, I've now learned to stick to these points that I'm going to give you and make it as simple as possible for yourselves. And it's one of the only ways that you can win high budget items. Even as a complete beginner, you can get a £10,000 project by submitting a treatment if it ticks all the boxes that that potential company are either looking for or you think can help them achieve their goals on perhaps the back of a meeting that you've had with them or something like that. So first page, opening page, nice and visual, straight in who you are, little bits of information about yourself would be great there. Then get straight into the concept. So what is a rough idea? In a sentence or two, you can see there's not much room for text here. So a very short summary of what is the concept, what are you trying to do? The concept is we're trying to take your car company from where you are at the moment to this image or this brand positioning. That's the idea behind the whole thing that I'm pitching to you, is how I'm going to achieve your goals in this particular way. So concept is really important. Then we normally back it up with kind of a bit of a mood board to start to set that visual scene. Mood boards are really important, so you can see that this is the kind of style we're going for, this very soft, very empowering, nice, happy images. And then we're going into an outline. So this is now diving down a little bit more into, right, this is the concept. The concept is we're going to try and get you here. This is actually how we do it. So this video is going to be targeted to do these things. What is your video actually going to do? So you can outline this such as something as simple like, for instance, with this car company, we would say something like, this video would start off, with this lady waking up in the morning, making her day as she sets out into the office. She gets into her car, she makes this really nice drive into the office, etc., etc. We show that she's empowering via doing these bits and pieces, etc., etc. Obviously, your project is always going to be different. No two projects we pitch for are the same. So you just want to outline the key points to what you're trying to do. And again, you're telling the story visually throughout this as much as you possibly can as well. Now with this particular project, we then jumped straight into a little storyboard effectively. So this was the outline. So the outline we would say in text here would also follow this kind of visual outline as well. So this tells a lot more of the story. The people that you're pitching to, again, might not be creative, so they can see from this how their video is actually going to look by using images that we found online to replicate the kind of tone, look and feel we were going for. Now, this is a very short document, and like I was saying before, if they haven't actively asked for something from you, then you might only want to keep it this long. If you already know the company, which we did, you don't necessarily need to include a whole page on why you're good for the job, but this is a very short document that in a couple of pages just takes them from, hey, I've listened to you, I've understood what it is you want to do, I understand where you're going. And I think that this solution to your problem is going to be really helpful. And this is how I propose we do it. This is the video concept, and then what's next? Submit that, get the feedback. Hey, I've just come up with this idea. Is that something that's useful to you? If they say no, then at least you haven't spent too much time. If they say yes, then you can say, okay, well, look, let me elaborate on this a little bit more. Or you might want to book a face-to-face or a video call meeting with them to be able to discuss this and talk them through your vision. And ultimately, don't just talk about you all the time and what you're proposing to do. Listen to them. That's the biggest key when you're pitching for high-ticket jobs, is listen to their wants and needs. Because if you ignore that, you won't get the work. So you need to listen and understand that business the best you can, and that's how you will win big projects. Now, if you're submitting your project to something like Janiro.com or one of these websites where you actually pitch for work, or perhaps you've worked with a company before and they say that they are putting out a tender, so they're putting out this concept, this video brief, and they want lots of businesses to pitch for it, then you want to go into a little bit more detail, and I'm going to include those pages for you right now. So the order of this might change slightly, but I'm going to give you some key points to exactly what you're going to want to include. So firstly, you might want to actually get straight in with, I've obviously just copied and pasted these, by the way, I'm going to move these around. So in which case I would open this slightly differently. I would actually go for your opening page, the date the treatment has been submitted, and then instead of outline, you're going to go in with about us, something like that. I'm obviously not going to do this visually, you'll get a much better understanding of that. About us, and then just say who you are, where have you come from, what's your industry experience, why are you good for the job? And then you want to back that up with effectively case studies or track record. Now, it doesn't matter if you haven't worked in that industry before, but you are going to need to prove that you can do the job. So for instance, we may not have worked for car companies before, but we may have worked for sports people. Now, in the visual setting or in the corporate setting that we're pitching for, that might create a nice dynamic. We might have done something within the sports industry that actually fits the same look, feel, and tone of the video. So you want to include in your track record what it is that you exactly did for that company, how much that company spent with you, because it will generally give them an idea of budgets that you're used to working with. Any contact information is always helpful for the company that you've worked for as your case study, because they might want to chase that up. They might want to call that company and say, hey, are these guys legit? Did you enjoy working with them? So include that information so that you can show that, hey, I'm not scared to show you these businesses we work for. We're very proud to have worked for these businesses. And then give them a summary of their feedback, any testimonials, so you can provide a full case study of what you did. Here's all the data, all the details of the project, and then here's the references of how they found it. If you know the stats of how it was implemented, then that's something to consider as well. So you've got then straight in with about you, track record, and then your understanding of their brief. So potentially instead of concept or in addition to concept, you might want to put something like your goals. Okay, so what you're doing here is you're pitching back to them exactly what they've asked you to pitch for, to show that you've understood that. Now, you're not using this word for word. In some treatments, they might ask you to come up with a couple of suggestions, and this is the perfect place to do that. Then from then on, it's exactly the same as we said before. So then it's a case of saying, look, we understand what you want, and this is how we propose we're going to do it through the concept. This is the visual kind of mood that we're thinking of. And now here's an outline to how we're actually going to achieve that. You've already said why you're good for the job. You might want to include a storyboard, and then it comes down to a case of any additional requirements or perhaps a pricing breakdown. So a price breakdown. I'll just leave it as price. It's important for you to show them exactly where their money's going. So you might want to cover location recce's, suggested locations, talent hire, actors, camera equipment. If you're a one-man band, then you just want to show them how many filming days and how many editing days that it's going to take, so they know how much this project is going to cost. And like I said, it might be a YouTube web series that you're pitching or something like that to a business. Give them an understanding, give them a little bit of a breakdown of what to expect pricing-wise. And then it generally moves on to next steps. And this is really important to let them know, is what from here? What do you need from this point onwards? So they might have outlined that in the brief, but you could also just say, look, the next step would be for us to go onto a video call where I can actually talk you through our thought process through this pitch. And what you would do is you would then get them onto a video call, you would take them through this document step by step, and don't just read from the document, but just give your own input, just give your own passion to why you thought that this would work well, because they would have already have read this document. So just try to elaborate on it more and let them ask questions. A live Q&A session where you can feedback from as well. Then finally, how can they contact you? So contact information again, contact information, and then ending it off with a nice ending slide as well here as well. And it really is, I'm gonna say that simple, but it is a very time consuming thing. These pitches can take days to do. Be under no illusion that this will take a lot of time, but if you're pitching for projects like us that are £500,000 more or hundreds of thousands of pounds, then you're going to want to put a lot of time and effort into that. If you're pitching for something that's £10,000 or less, or around £10,000 to £20,000, then you're probably going to want to do a slightly shorter cut down version. It just depends, but you need to understand that if you go into this thinking that you're probably not going to get the job, then you're only going to naturally put in half the effort. And if you're only putting in half the effort, then what are your results going to be? They're going to be pretty low. You're going to have such a small chance of actually getting it. So you need to go in with these pitches with 100%, I'm going to get this job and I'm going to give it 110% effort, because that's going to give you the best chance of success. You can't cut corners. You can't do these things half-heartedly if you want to win big projects for your business. And just to recap, like I said on the start, this can be used for business meetings you've had where you've thought of an idea and you want to pitch it to them in a visual way and get them on board. Perhaps it's a higher ticket item than what you've been doing with them normally, and this is a great way of showcasing, hey, look, this is a bit higher budget than what we normally do, but this is what we're going to look to do. It's going to be this amazing video production. Or you can be pitching for these things through tenders, online platforms, where businesses are actually actively saying to lots of companies, this is the idea we have, who's the best person for this project? And then it's you taking their pitch, flipping it around, showing them that you are the best person for this. I hope you have found this video useful. If you have, please do hit the subscribe button with the notification bell on. That way you'll get notified every time we upload a valuable video like this, which is generally once a week. Join the community. I've made it my mission to give more away for free than most people would have you pay for. So if that sounds like something you want to be a part of, then hit the subscribe button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, along with any other video suggestions. We reply to absolutely everyone. Until next time, peace.